Hello, students. So these days, many of our courses are going through the testing phases. Testing phase is a phase in our course in which we are conducting tests on a daily basis. For example, in the testing phase, what exactly happens is one day the test is taken, the other day the review is taken. Just like एक दिन test होता है और अगले दिन review होता है. And this process keeps on moving till the time the student is hitting their optimal point. So every student will have a different kind of a testing phases, and some students may have a testing phase which may be 1 month long. Even some students may have a 3 month long process in which we are just trying to find the stagnation point of the student. So in testing phases, what exactly happens is many of our students give tests. बहुत सारे लोग टेस्ट देते हैं. On an average, 10,000 people are giving tests on a daily basis. Right now, as the CAT is coming, so test बहुत ज़्यादा हो रहा है. Now, many of the times, some very interesting trend keep on coming. So, कभी-कभी बहुत interesting trend आता है. अभी right now, we actually started an exercise in which, in the review, when we were doing the test reviews, even started asking the students which क्वेश्चन they find is the most simplest. उनसे पूछा गया कि कौन सा क्वेश्चन उनको सबसे आसान लगा या सिंपल लगा. So what exactly we found out was that, let's say, if out of, let's say, the sample size of 100, if 95% people are saying or marking one of the question as very simple or सबसे आसान उनको वही क्वेश्चन लग रहा है, that was a question in which most of the students were doing the mistake. So the point what I'm trying to say, the trend is, the interesting point I'm talking about is, जो क्वेश्चन सब बच्चों को सबसे आसान लगा वो ही उन्होंने गलत किया. So in our understanding as a teachers, if majority of the people or maximum people are doing the mistakes in a question, we will consider that as the most difficult question. Our analysis of a difficulty level depends on the people who are the percent of the people who are marking it correctly. लेकिन यही ट्रेंड जब उल्टा किया गया और बच्चों से पूछा गया कि which question they consider the most simple question, let's say out of the 100 sample size, if 95% mark one of the question as the most simplest, and that is a question in which most of the people actually marked it wrong. So what is exactly is the mistake people are doing? Now, in CAT, we all know there are three sections are there: quant, DILR, and the verbal part. Quant method, it becomes very easy to select the question which you find friendly or you think you'll be able to mark it correctly. But in DILR and even in the verbal part, you have to spend time in understanding which set you have to choose in DILR or which passage you have to pick in the verbal. Let me talk specifically in the verbal so that you will be able to understand what the point I'm trying to make. Let's say there are 4 passages, 4 reading comprehensions, and we have to choose one of the passage we have to choose, let's say, 2 of the passages out of the 4 to move into. Now, we obviously, the strategy most of the people will use is they will try to find the most friendlier passage. Now, how they try to find the friendlier passages, obviously in that time constraint, जो उसमें tension आपको होता है, and what exactly you would be doing is you will be trying to find a passage which you will find friendly in the sense of understanding. Now, I'll give an example. Look at the screen. Now you have 2 other passages. I've taken an example in sort of most recent test in which the same kind of a trend was seen. Now, these 2 passages is the starting paragraph of the comprehensions. Now, every one of the person marked the first passage as the the simplest passage in the total reading comprehension. And the second passage, the short passage, was marked as the most difficult one. And 95% people even didn't pick this passage and even didn't try it. Now, what exactly happened in that thing is, if you're just looking at a passage, let's say in DLR, you're just looking at a question part, and you're not looking at let's say you're just looking at the case in totality, and you are able to make out that you would be able to handle this case, or in the reading comprehension, let's say if you're looking at a passage, You are just looking at a passage and saying, मुझे ये समझ आ रहा है, तो ये मेरे लिए पैसेज करेक्ट है. लेकिन आपका जो मार्क्स मिल रहे हैं, आप अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए नहीं मिल रहे हैं. The marks you are getting is not about how well you are able to understand a passage. The marks is for marking the answer correctly. So what exactly is happening is, सभी बच्चे क्या कर रहे हैं कि वो पैसेज को देख रहे हैं, और पैसेज को देखने के बाद वो कह रहे हैं कि ये पैसेज मुझे समझ आ गया, ये नहीं आया, तो जो समझ आया वही मुझे करना है. और इन whatever they find it much more friendlier in understanding, they are moving to that passage, and they are not selecting the passage which they are it's difficult for them to understand. So this is an example which I am going to share with you. So what exactly happens was, let's say out of 10,000 people who gave this test, or let's say a sample size of 100, 95% people said the radioactivity, the first passage which we're talking about, is the easiest passage. And 95% people took this passage, only 5% people took the sure passage. Now this is a representation of the only passages, only the starting paragraph of the reading comprehension, just to make you understand the point I'm trying to make. So you look at these two passages, okay, and what exactly your opinion is. Let's say if you a simple exercise of choosing one of the passage, and these are let's say this is only the first paragraph of the passage, but let's assume that these passages are the two passages. You have to choose one. You have only 5 minutes to go for a test. So which passage you're going to pick? The most of the people, आप में से भी 95 to 98% people will choose a radioactivity kind of a radioactivity wala passage, and no one will take the short passage. Now, what exactly the problem in that approach is? The marks is for marking it correctly. So you have to look at the reading comprehension, the total package. I meant to say, look at the passage, even look at the question part. Usually what happens in an IQ test is, the things which may look very difficult to you would be very easy to answer, or vice versa. So for example, I'll give an example in these two passages only. Let's say in the first passage we are talking about, and we are, let's say in this passage when I am talking about, let's say the question I put is trying to find the main idea of the passage. Now, what is the complexity with the main idea? Main idea में क्या problem होता है? और easy part क्या होता है? Let's say we are looking at a very difficult passage. Let's say this is a passage we are talking about. Even without understanding many of the words, many of the phrases or clauses, then also we would be able to come out with the main idea of this seemingly looking difficult passage. मतलब वो जो आपको दिखने में थोड़ा मुश्किल लग रहा है, वो बहुत इजी हो सकता है जस्ट मेन आइडिया फाइंड आउट करने में. और लेट्स से फर्स्ट पैसेज जो सबको पता है रेडियो एक्टिविटी क्या है, एवरीवन नोस अबाउट एवरीथिंग लाइक इन रेडियो एक्टिविटी. लेट्स से द क्वेश्चन इज let's say CR or inference based question. Now what exactly is the problem with the inference based question is, usually in reading comprehensions in the verbal part, reading comprehension, whenever any person has to make a very difficult question, usually the question is taken from the inference part. Why inference? The reason being, you can have multiple inferences from a passage, and even a word, some small word deviation will change the total meaning. It must, always, all, छोटा सा word will change the total meaning of the passage. So what I'm saying is, and this is the trend which even the toppers do, even the people who are scoring above the 99 percentile are doing this mistake, in which what they're doing is they're trying to just look at the passage, and let's say the radioactivity passage, I'm able to understand it, I know radioactivity and all. The second passage, the shore passage is much more an abstract passage. थोड़ा abstract है, तो थोड़ा सा वो poetic है, author अपना सोच रहा है, fiction, so it can have any word. So what exactly will happen is, Just by looking at a passage, you will just find out, and in a test what will happen, बहुत जल्दी है मुझे जल्दी करना है, time है 40 minutes है, so many things I have to do, and what exactly is going to happen is आप एकदम ही उसको strategically आप choose करेंगे कि I'll choose this passage and I'll do this passage. Now try to look at the total package, look at the questions even, and if you're finding CR, inference, or accept kind of a question, or even an assumption-based question that are much more difficult to handle, and even if you are able to understand the passage, it would not be easy to mark the correct answer. Now, looking at the second passage. Now, this passage is a lot of words which I'm not able to understand. Let's say just reading through the passage. The shore, that immeasurable fringe that will exist as long as the sea and the land do. At waterfronts, we relish gently splashing waters at the edge of glassy expanses, where powerful currents move unfathomable volumes at speed. At waterfronts, we tread waves stirred by the wind and coming at an inexorable beat from invisible distances. The shore has always evoked deep emotions of detachment, exposure, and homecoming for our terrestrial selves seeking at sea adventure, betterment, power, profit, and sustenance. No surprise that the art, science, and technology and accounts of the everyday endeavors had devoted it to it words and number beyond survey. Now I can understand words, phrases, थोड़ा मुश्किल है, नहीं समझ आ रहा है. लेकिन just even if you're not, even if you're looking at the context, only the context and what are the parts you're able to understand, you would be able to make out the main idea. The main idea is something like the shore obviously you understand the water, land, and you have a shore in between. It is what the poet or the author, I'm trying to mark the author as poet, reason being it's a fiction, it's a poetic sense है, लेकिन then also let me being the precise author, इसमें author क्या बोलने की कोशिश कर रहा है कि शोर में एक हमारा एक दो काइंड ऑफ इमोशंस हैं, हैप्पी एंड सैड बोथ. हम सरप्राइज भी हैं, अमेज भी हैं, हम हैप्पीली सरप्राइज्ड. We are looking at it as a part of just like adventure. These words like a word terrestrial that is adventure, betterment, power, profit, sustenance, and dread. So we are looking at two kinds of emotions: the emotions of happiness, emotions of even sadness, or in a way we can say we are dreading it, we are afraid of it. So ये मोटा मोटा में समझ आ गया कि ये एक पैसेज है जो दो काइंड ऑफ इमोशंस और शोर को एज एन एग्जांपल ले. नाउ आई अंडरस्टैंड द रेडियो एक्टिविटी पैसेज जो है वो इजी दिखता है, और what to say, I as a teacher can easily mark it. Both of the I am finding both of the passages correct, but what the trend showed was that only 5% of the people took the short passage and they were able to mark it correct. So in our understanding, the short passage is easier on the basis of the results we found out. So what is the learning out of this thing is? Learning is even in the DLR, even in the verbal part. Spend your time in strategizing, choosing part. If you are selecting, if you're strategizing, selecting the passage or the sets carefully, then after 50% success journey is over. I meant to say you have done a very good job. So what exactly happens in a test is sort of time constraint. Because of time constraint, you will be in a hurry. आपको जल्दी होगा. And in that way, these are the kind of mistakes you do. In the RC, look at the total package. The questions even look at. Don't look at just the passage, and if you find it friendly, don't jump into it. Usually in an IQ test, is a difficult, seemingly difficult passage or a question would be much easier to solve, and the vice versa. Okay. So the major learning we have is spend your time in strategizing, in selection, spend time wisely. Try to look at if you're looking at the sets and even the reading comprehension, try to look at it holistically. Try to look at the passage with the questions part even before selecting any passage. Okay, so best of luck for your exams, which is, I think, it's very close by. Yeah, thank you, friends.